Okay, go ahead.
Om na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena ke amritatvamanasu parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibrajade tadyatayo vishanti vedanta vijnana sunishchitartha Nyasa yoga jataya shuddha sattva te brahma loke tu paranta kale paramritat parimucyanti sarve dahram vipapam parameshva bhutayat pundarikam uramadya sadgastam तत्रापि दह्रं गगनं विशोकस्तस्मिन् यदन्तस्तदुपासितव्यम् यो वेदादौ स्वरप्रोक्तो वेदान्ते च प्रतिष्ठितः तस्य प्रकृतिलीनस्य यः परः स महेश्वरः बोले श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
We will now chant the invocation. Upaji will chant the invocation.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram.
We shall now begin the yajna by lighting the lamp.
Shubham Karoti Kalyanam Arogyam Dhana Sampada Shatru Buddhi Vinashaya Deepajyotir Namostute Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hari Om. Respectful pranams to Swamiji. On behalf of all of us in Chinmaya Jayam, I thank Swamiji for accepting our invitation to teach us the Amritabindu Upanishad, allowing us to taste the nectar of knowledge in this Upanishad. Thanks also to the Sevaks and Sevikas of Chinmaya Jayam for the invocation, for the shloka, and making all this happen. Namaskars and greetings to all of you who have joined us today. For those of you in the audience who may not know Swamiji very well, Swami Satmanandaji is the head of Chinmaya Mission Mumbai, overseeing the activities of the 8 centers in Mumbai. He's a graduate of Commerce and Computer Science. He finished the 2-year residential Vedanta course in Sandipani Sadhanalaya in the year 2000. And he has been serving the mission ever since then. Swamiji is a Vedantin with a deep personal knowledge of the scriptures. He's a keen thinker, an eloquent speaker, a creative playwright, a dynamic leader who inspires and enthuses people, all the people who come into contact with him. They may be the children of Balavihar, they may be the youth of the Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, they may be the adults or senior citizens. He has also taken Vedanta to the leaders of the Indian corporate world and showed them that it is not an abstract philosophy, but has a relevant and practical application to our daily life. Swamiji's influence and appeal is not limited only to Mumbai. He is well known and respected all over India and indeed all over the world. I would like to make a few brief announcements before we begin. There will be a 10-minute question and answer session at the end of this discourse and other discourses that follow. Please post your questions on the group chat so that Swamiji can see them and answer them. From the next week, at the beginning of every discourse, at the beginning of every program, we will be posting a summary, the takeaway from the previous week's teachings. It'll be like a quick review of the previous week's teachings. So please do log in 15 minutes earlier at 6:45 before the start of the program, as such, before the start of the discourse, so that you could benefit from this review. At the end of the Jnana Yajna in 13 weeks, an entire transcript of Swamiji's discourses will be prepared and circulated in soft copy to all the people who have registered, right? So that they may recall, remember, and revisit this Upanishad at any time. The Sampurna Yajamans for the entire Jnana Yajna are Chitur Manohar and Srimati Radha Kini. The Sampurna Upayajamans are Srimati Chitra Vora, Srimati Kalpana Morparia, Sri Kishore Mallapur, Srimati Kumud Gyanendra Misra, and Srimati Preeti Saxena. The Dainika Yajman for today's discourse, Srimati Ila Kadakia. The Yajman for today's Aarti is Srimati Amrapali Patil. We pray that the grace and blessings of Lord Jagadishwara, Pujya Gurudev, Pujya Guruji, and the Guru Shishya Parampara descend upon them and on their families. I would now request Swamiji to start his teaching.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Samastajana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om, salutations to one and all. I thank the Chinmaya Jayam Zone for this wonderful opportunity to reflect upon Amritabindu Upanishad. It's a great fortune that one comes across an Upanishad, one comes across a great master like Pujya Gurudev, who brought this Upanishadic knowledge to all of us, made it easy to understand, explained it logically to us, and helped us in the path of sadhana and self-unfoldment. So there are many different Upanishads which are there, the major Upanishads, and they are called major Upanishads because Adi Shankaracharya ji, Ramanujacharya ji and Madhvacharya ji have written commentaries on it. And here this is Amritabindu Upanishad, which is considered one of the minor Upanishads. Not that the content is anything lesser, content is equally intense and deep, but it is called as a minor Upanishad only because the commentaries on this Upanishad of the three great acharyas of Vedant, Shankaracharya ji of Advait Vedant, Ramanujacharya ji of the Vishishtadvait Vedant, and Madhvacharya ji of the Dvait Vedant, the commentaries are not there on this Upanishad. They have not commented on this Upanishad, so it is called minor. Now, before we go into the Upanishad itself, one question that many times can come to a person is, when does the spiritual progress, when does the spiritual journey begin? The spiritual journey of a person actually is continuously going on. Every moment we are evolving. That itself is the spiritual journey. There is not a specific time when we say that from now spiritual journey begins, because Adhyatma, Adhi means inside, Atma means the self. So Adhyatma means that which is about the self. And our evolution is to realize that self. But formally we say that from the time we become aware of the sense of limitation in us, of finitude in us, from then the spiritual journey formally begins. Till then we live our life, fulfilling desires, experiencing the pairs of opposites in the world, heat, cold, pleasure, pain, success, failure, love, hate, praise, criticism. We go through life. But many times it doesn't strike that why are we going through all this? At some moments life brings wake-up calls and we suddenly start questioning. Some loss happens, some deep disappointment happens, some death of a close one happens. Then suddenly life brings as though some wake-up calls, jolts us, shakes us up, saying, think, why are you here? So from the moment we start questioning, Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji used to say very beautifully that the moment one questions the validity of one's pursuits, one becomes a seeker. All of us are seeking. We are seeking supreme happiness, infinite happiness. Nobody wants to be miserable. So Vedanta says permanent happiness, Paramananda Prapti, and complete freedom from sorrow, Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti. They are the goals of our life. And everybody is seeking that. Some are seeking unconsciously, unaware. A seeker is one who has become aware that no matter what I do in this world, what I achieve in this world, what I become in this world, where I go in this world, my wants can get fulfilled, but wanting doesn't get fulfilled. The wants keep getting fulfilled. Some will get fulfilled, some doesn't get fulfilled at a point in time. At some other point in time, it gets fulfilled. But wanting doesn't stop. Continuously, one keeps wanting more and more of the same or something new. And this pursuit keeps the mind engaged fully in the world outside. A seeker is one who becomes aware of this, that I wanted some good percentage, I got it. Then I wanted a good admission in some particular university, I got it. Then I wanted some job or I made a startup. Then I wanted promotion, then I wanted success, then I wanted marriage. It goes on. And I attained all these different things. Yet there is a sense of incompleteness. There is some lack of fulfillment. There is a sense of insecurity also. That doesn't go. No matter what one has tried. That seeker who has become aware of this, that person who knows that there is supreme happiness, which is what I seek. In and through all the activities that I'm doing, I want to be happy at all times, but I'm not able to be happy at all times. Especially in today's world, we are happy now and then. Stress, worry, tension, anxiety, depression, mental health issues, suicidal tendencies, what not plagues the mind. Here and there we experience some momentary fleeting pleasure. Like Gurudev used to say that, this pleasure is like a chutney. Sorrow is the main course meal in this samsara. And his definition of a samsari, I keep repeating, that is just to reflect for myself. That who is a samsari? One who is always somewhat sorry is a samsari. No matter what one attains in life or what one doesn't attain in life, continuously miserable. That's the state of the jiva. That's the state of finitude, in bandhan. That's why in the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, beautifully it is said, Yo vai bhuma tadeva sukham, alpe sukham na asti. That which is infinite, there is happiness only in that. In that which is limited and finite, there is no happiness. There can be some fleeting pleasure or reflections of some temporary happiness, but not real happiness. So somebody who has seen that, who has gone through this, not intellectually alone, has seen through life and seen that there is the state of incompleteness and then there is a state of fulfillment. And that fulfillment is what I seek. Through satsang, one comes to that there is something called fulfillment. It is also our true nature, but I don't know it right now. So one who knows this will seek consciously that I have the goal to seek, which is permanent happiness. The world is incapable of giving me that. I may continue to do my duties, my roles here, but my attitude changes, that I don't expect permanent happiness from there because it is incapable. It is like going to a desert in the hot afternoon in the desert and expecting that there will be a nice lake there where I can, jump and take a bath. It is not happening. Gurudev used to say that when the expectations are false, disappointment is natural. We have so many false expectations, and then we feel we want to be happy keeping those false expectations. How is it possible? To seek permanent happiness in the impermanent world is a false expectation. I can't get it. To think that I am this body and to experience immortality through that, it is a false expectation. So the Upanishad is that knowledge which helps us to attain fulfillment, which helps us to drop this sense of finitude. That seeker is called as the Adhikari of the Upanishad. Somebody who has seen through life, analyzed it, gone through certain experiences, understood from the experiences of other people also. That person is called Adhikari. Adhikari here means a qualified student. That who is qualified to study the Upanishad? One who is observing life, and in and through life, one is having the quest for that which is going to make me experience fulfillment. So definitely Upanishad is not for an escapist or a person who is dejected, depressed, and who is not wanting to do the duties of life. Many people think like that, the last resort of the dejected and the depressed is come to spirituality. If nothing better I can do, then okay, come to Adhyatma, come to spirituality, go to an ashram. Swamiji, my son is useless, he's not fit for anything. Will you take him in the ashram? What a question is that? You think about it. The highest qualification is required to study Upanishad. We will see that Vivek, discrimination between real and unreal. Somebody who knows that there is something called real and what I am seeing is not necessarily real. Somebody who has experienced temporariness of momentariness of life and wants to experience that which is permanent. That urge is there to realize that supreme. That person is an Adhikari who has Vivek, who has Vairagya. In the Mundaka Upanishad it comes, Pariksha Lokan. Not only this world, one has examined all the 14 worlds through the study of the scriptures, through one's own reflection. One has understood that no matter where I go, I may go to heaven, I may go to even, Brahmalok, wherever I may go, I will still remain a finite entity. So one who has seen carefully, gone through various experiences of life, understood that I keep getting what I want, but still I feel finite, I feel mortal, I feel limited. That person is the Adhikari. Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan. The world of action will only give limited result. So no matter how much I act, how much I achieve, no matter how big I become, I will still be small compared to infinity. So from that standpoint, a spiritual seeker is the one who has the greatest ambition, is to realize infinity. There is no greater ambition than that. One can become a billionaire, one can win the World Cup, one can become a Mr. Universe, Miss Universe, all those things, no doubt, come to the best company in the world, and all that has relevance, there's no doubt. But the spiritual seeker says, I want to realize that infinite. So think about it. Those who think that spirituality is meant for people who are good for nothing, it is meant for people who want the infinite, who have that strong desire that I want to attain that. That is called mumukshutvam, that intense desire for liberation, that I want to break free from all the shackles. People in the world, they have this, a lot of people, especially young people, break free, break all the rules, and I don't want to be bound by anything. My life, my rules. Very good. Seeker says, my life, scriptural rules. And I will realize the infinite, because that is true breaking out of the shell of my ego. If I break out of the shell of ego, all other freedoms, all other things I have broken out of. So Upanishadic seeker is that who seeks the highest and who has that stamina to seek the highest. Desire for the highest can come in anybody now and then, but that consistency to seek that is important. We go to any spiritual camp and we feel very inspired and do some meditation, go in a sattvic environment, have a nice retreat, sattvic food, sattvic people, sattvic conversation, sattvic time, be around nature, in the mountains, Himalayas, flowing rivers, sit quietly. One feels, yes, this is what I am made for. I want this. And this is the life. And I'm going to dedicate my life to this seeking. One starts, and then when camp gets over, 5 days camp, 7 days camp over, then one comes back into the world. One says, I am going to meditate. 7 days, every day I meditated there. It was so lovely. Tomorrow morning also, same time, 5:30, I will wake up and I will meditate. And one sits, one gets up also, one sits for meditation. And first day one meditates also very nicely. One feels so happy. But after that, 2-3 days, slowly the mind says, I deserve more rest. This 5:30 in the morning is okay in the camp, but I need to watch this. Some Netflix series or some binge watching I will do. It's all right. I have already slogged for 10 days, getting up at 5:30. One cheat day is okay. And that mind starts falling. And then one forgets so many things one learned in the camp, one is lost in the world. That's how the mind plays the tricks with us. So the desire for the higher can come now and then in anyone. People, we say that in Vedanta, there's a thing called smashana vairagya. So when somebody has passed away and one goes to the crematorium and then one sees that this is the end of this destiny, the destiny of this body is this. From a drop of water to a pot of ash, this is the journey of life. What is this thing all about? Then what am I running behind? It is all useless. Let me know that which is permanent. And it is important to have that vivek. But what happens is it remains in smashan. And in that place one has that vairagya. That's why it's called smashana vairagya. The moment one comes home, takes bath, the entire thing as though is washed away. And one says, chalo chaat khayenge, bhel puri le do, pani puri le do. mind goes. So now and then the desire for the immortal, for the infinite truth may arise, but the seeker is one who seeks consistently. That is a spiritual stamina. That person is called Adhikari, and for that Adhikari who really wants to know who am I, because I know only some descriptions about my body, mind, intellect. I don't know who am I. When I say I am so and so, I am son of so and so, those are descriptions of the body, descriptions of the mind. Who am I truly? That knowledge is the knowledge of the Upanishads. So the Adhikari is one who wants to know who am I, who wants to break out of this continuous wanting, continuous dependency, who wants to experience that state of fulfillment, and who has consistent seeking for that. What is that which will help? Is the knowledge of the self. Upanishad means that knowledge of that self. Upanishad does not mean book. That book is a secondary meaning. So the word Upanishad literally means Brahma Vidya. Upanishad Shabdena Vidya iti uchyate. It is the knowledge of the self, that who am I truly. So when we come to study the Upanishads, are we trying to study the Upanishads to make my relationships better, to get certain efficiency in my performance, to improve my concentration, or to let us say overcome some of the negative tendencies, my anger issues I have, or I have some greed issues. Is the study of Upanishad meant for this? There are other sadhanas meant for other sadhanas one can do for this. The study of Upanishad is to know who am I truly. That's the purpose of the study of Upanishad. One can benefit in other ways. Those are secondary benefits, not that they will not come. Like in this Upanishad, there will be explanation about Om chanting. Now I can chant Om just to reduce my BP, cholesterol, sugar, and all those things. A lot of people do meditation for that. Or I can chant Om saying, okay, I just want to focus my mind because it does a lot of overthinking and it runs here and there. It's very hyper. So let me just quieten this mind. So I can chant Om for concentration. I can chant Om for peace of mind. Or I can say that Om represents the absolute self. And this contemplation on Om will help me to realize who am I. See, none of them are wrong by themselves, but it is like using a diamond, like a Kohinoor diamond, very big, precious one, for a paperweight. The use of Upanishadic knowledge for reducing BP, cholesterol, reducing some stress, or increasing some concentration is like being happy with some secondary or tertiary benefits, leaving aside the primary one. So the result of the Upanishads, the study of Upanishad, is freedom from the ego, freedom from the sense of finitude, destruction of ignorance, that I don't know who am I. That ignorance has to be destroyed. So that is called as the prayojana, the purpose why the Upanishad is to be studied. So who has to study the Upanishad? One who wants freedom, that Adhikari. So I should ask myself, do I really want freedom? When will I have the demand for freedom? That is one question that I can ask myself. The demand for freedom will be there in me when I feel bondage. If I don't feel bondage, there is no demand for freedom. Right now, is there any demand for physical freedom from any of us? No, because nobody has tied us up. We are not feeling bound. We are not feeling restricted. We can move our hands. We can get up. We can stand. We can laugh. We can do anything. Nobody has bound us. But suppose somebody binds us, then immediately we feel restricted, and then that is not my nature. I want to be free. So what binds us in life? Our attachments, they bind us in life. Our selfishness binds us in life. So many thought patterns we have created, they bind us in life. wrong notions we have, they bind us in life. Our impurities, they bind us in life. Our ignorance binds us in life. So if I become aware, my ego, I take things so personally, then that binds me. Somebody rejected my idea in a meeting, I feel rejected. If my son doesn't listen to me, I feel, my son is rejecting me. The son can have his own idea or his own opinion. He is a grown-up person. Doesn't have to follow everything that you say. But I feel rejected because I take it personally. All those things will bind. So social pressure, peer pressure, what people will say, then I have to conform to follow their, dictates. All those will bind. If I feel bound, then I want freedom. Whole life many times passes without awareness of bondage. That's the sad part. That I am bound, that itself is not known. Because if that is not known, there is no demand for freedom. That's why one quote I read, again I keep repeating this, is one of my favorite quotes. Who is the greatest enemy to freedom? A happy slave is the greatest enemy to freedom. I am a slave of my own mind. I am a slave of my own attachments, my own insecurities, my own dependencies on the world outside. But I am not wanting to face that. And I am very happy in my bondage, in my slavery. As my mind says, I will do that. No question of thinking whether it is right, wrong, whether it is beneficial, harmful, nothing. Everybody drinks, I will also drink because it is the in thing to do. Young people today drinking as though it is something that is a sign of great, achievement. In celebration also they drink, in disappointment also they drink, in fear also they drink, in any situation they just go on drinking. Pathetic. No brain to use. Already brain is less. In that you drink and destroy all the gray cells more. That's scientifically proved. Alcohol does all that. And hangover, and then do all kinds of stuff in the night which one doesn't remember, and then next day vomit also, and all those things. But one feels if I have gone through this, then there's something cool. Wrong notion. One will just follow what the mind says without thinking what is good, what is bad, what is to be done, not done. And then there is no feeling. There is no feeling then for freedom, because I don't feel I'm bound. I'm doing what I feel like doing. So Gurudev used to say, not to do what you feel like doing, that is freedom. Their feel is in single quotes, meaning not to be impulsive, that is freedom. If I keep doing whatever my mind says and I do impulsively, then that is not freedom, that is bondage actually. And a seeker is one who becomes aware, oh, I am bound. And only when I am bound, then I will realize that, oh, there is some greater state of freedom. So let me, break out of this and experience freedom. Why should I be restricted and bound? We feel society binds us, our company rules bind us, the legal issues are there, they bind us, our family culture and traditions bind us, but we don't realize that our own mind and our own ego binds us. So a person who realizes that person is the Adhikari. Until we don't realize that we are bound, the desire for freedom will not be there. And so life just goes on and on and on. Only thing is we keep changing the people in our life, or the objects in our life, or the places in our life. That's all happens. Everything otherwise continues. Same thing continues. Not only one life, life after life, same thing continues. So what Vedanta tells us, that a seeker who is aware of the bondage will have the desire for liberation. That seeker goes to a teacher. This knowledge cannot be gained by oneself just by reading books. Somebody asked Puja Gurudev, that one youngster only, he asked, Swamiji, why do we need a guru? Books are there, tapes are there, cassettes are there, CDs are there. Why do we need a guru? Gurudev very wittily replied, ask that question to the books and the tapes. This knowledge is very subtle. How will we realize this self? If it was so easy, we would have known by now. It is our own true self. Still, I don't know it. Is it not very strange? And still, I need somebody to tell me who it is. Who am I? Somebody to tell me even what sadhanas to do to purify so that I recognize who am I. So, as Upanishad seeker goes to the Guru, this knowledge which is gained at the feet of a realized master, Shrotriya and Brahmanishta is what the Upanishads say. That intuitive knowledge which arises in the heart of the student when that student is tuned with the teacher, that intuitive knowledge that I am the self, I am not this entity, Mr. So-and-so, that intuitive knowledge is called Upanishad. Upanishad is not the words. Upanishad is not the books. Upanishad is that intuitive knowledge that arises in the heart of the student. And that's why the tuning with the teacher is important. So Adhikari is the person who wants freedom, who has gone to the teacher. The person having gone to the teacher serves the teacher so that the tuning happens, surrenders to that teacher or surrenders to Ishvara and thinks of the teacher as a form of Ishvara, and then studies the Shastra, which is the valid means of knowing this truth. It's very interesting. If I want to know anything about the physical laws in the universe, I will study which book? Will I take the book of law and study? I will take physics and study, no? If I want to know about medicine, what will I do? Will I take engineering books? I will study the books of medicine. But if I want to know the self, what do? I start using science. And then whatever the limited knowledge of science is there about God, I use that knowledge to prove that there is no God, there is no self, there is no truth. It is absolutely illogical or not? The subjective science which helps us to know the self or God or consciousness is the science which is revealed in the scriptures. So if I want to know that, I should study the scripture. I can't study some objective science manuals to know that which is the subject. It is absolutely illogical. But that is what one is doing, because the definition of God today is very limited, and people only think the Abrahamic definitions of God or Semitic religion definitions of God. They don't understand Vedantic definition of God as consciousness, and that same consciousness is in our own heart, and it is that which is the basis of the whole creation. So to know about that consciousness or the self, which is the book to study? It is the scripture. Vedanto nama Upanishad pramanam. Swami Sadanandji says in Vedanta Sar, the valid means of knowing the self is the Upanishad. I cannot know the self from anywhere else, any other book. If it is revealing the knowledge of the self from any other, great master's composition also, I can know that. I'm not denying that. I don't mean only the Sanskrit books written or the Vedic books. The same intuitive knowledge which is revealed in the compositions of other people who have experienced the self also will reveal that same truth. But I cannot use the books of science or law or physics to understand the self. It is illogical. So when people ask, Swamiji, can you scientifically explain existence of God? Actually speaking, it is a wrong question. It is like saying that, can you medically explain how this legal problem can be solved? Hello. It is not possible. How medical books can be used to solve this legal problem? It is a legal issue, a civil issue, whatever it is. You have to handle law books to handle those issues. So Upanishad is the direct means to know the self, and that's why one studies the Upanishad. So the Sambandha is this: the result that I want is freedom from the self. freedom from the ego and knowledge of the self. Who wants that? I, the Adhikari, want it. So what is the connection between the Adhikari and then this Vishaya, the knowledge of the self, and this result is this book, the Sambandha. The study of Upanishad will lead me to that. Oh, what is the proof, Swamiji? So many great masters have followed this and realized the truth. Not only in Bharat and across the world. And they have experienced it. They are the living proofs that what the Upanishad is saying is true. And if we follow that path, we will also experience the self and realize the truth. So 4 things we saw. This is called as Anubandha Chatushtaya. Who is the Adhikari? A deserving or a qualified student is someone who is aware of bondage, who wants the freedom from bondage. That is another interesting point. I may be aware of bondage, but I may not want to give up bondage. I may be very happy in bondage. That's why that saying, a happy slave is the greatest enemy to freedom. I'm very happy in my bondage. Like people say, no, I like to be lazy. I don't want to overcome laziness. It's fine. And there's a whole book on it, the joy of laziness. If you read that, it's very interesting. They say lazy people will live longer. A lot of, to support laziness, a lot of arguments are there in it. I'm not saying we should become lazy after reading the book, but I'm just amused that this kind of books also are there and there are enough people to follow that. So there are enough justifications also for laziness, for anger. Oh, how much justification is there? Swamiji, if we don't have anger, people will treat us as doormats. We have to have anger. And then some people will say, to live egolessly in this world is not possible at all, is impractical. Okay, then don't study the Upanishad. Because no, ego is required. Swamiji, without ego, how can we function in the world? There has to be an ego. Now, keeping that notion in mind, I'm studying this Upanishad, how it will benefit me. So when we have these wrong notions and we are happy in that, Swamiji, we are grahasthis, we can't be detached. All you can say everything. I accept it, but that is meant for sannyasis. Detachment is not for grahasthis. Because we have children, we have family, how can we be detached? It is not possible. Okay, then be miserable. No, that I don't want to be miserable. Sorrow is directly proportional to your attachment. That's what the Shastra says. And happiness is directly proportional to detachment. Oh, but I can't be detached and yet I don't want to be miserable. Then nothing can be done. If I am on, suppose I am on one step, 2 feet are on one step. Now, if I want to rise higher, what do I have to do? I have to leave one step, put my foot on the next step. Then only I can go up. If I'm not ready to drop, I can't move up. If I'm not ready to drop bondage and I'm not ready to feel the pain that this bondage is bringing, and then the desire to liberate myself is not there, then nothing will happen. So a seeker is one who has the awareness of bondage, who feels the pain of bondage, who has a desire to come out of this bondage, and then who goes to the right means to remove the bondage, goes to the teacher and studies the scripture or the Upanishads or Vedanta to remove that bondage. If I have a medical issue, I will go to a doctor. I will not go to some engineer saying, I have loose motions, now help me out. What will that engineer do? So Gurudev used to say that when people come to sadhus and sannyasis, they ask all kinds of questions which are not connected. That's not the core competency of the sadhu. Swamiji, my wife is not listening to me. What can I do? Arey, I don't have a wife. I don't know how to handle. Why are you asking me? Come to me to know the self, to know what the scripture is saying. Which stock should I invest in? I have no idea. But people ask, they'll show the hand. Swamiji, when will I get married? I said, depends on your hand only, your efforts. What else can you say? These are not the subject that you ask a sadhu or a sannyasi. Ask them about the self, because that they are competent to know that and they can guide on that. So a seeker goes to the appropriate person to get that knowledge. That person is Adhikari. The Vishaya is the knowledge of the self. The prayojana is the freedom from this bondage. And the Sambandha is, yes, the study of this Upanishad will help to free the person from the state of ignorance and bondage. So that is what the book is meant for. Now, so Upanishad by itself, the word, if we say Upanishad, it is divided in three parts: Upa, Ni, and Shad. So Upa means near. So going near a teacher who is Shrotriya, who has studied the scriptures well, who is Brahmanishta, who is abiding in the self. Anybody who is giving knowledge cannot become a guru. Shastra has qualifications for it. So all of us also, Gurudev used to always tell us, this is our sadhana we are doing. We are seekers, we are not gurus. We are seekers doing our manan, reflection, and in that process sharing the knowledge with everyone. Because who is a guru? A guru is a realized person. In Vedanta, that person is called as a guru. We use the word guru very lightly. Hey guru, aajao. Somebody who is smart, or some management guru, or some cook also is called guru. Anything, we call guru anybody as guru. But actually the word guru means one who removes the darkness of ignorance is called guru. The darkness of Sat, what is that truth? One who removes the ignorance of the truth, that person is called Sat Guru. So one goes to that Sat Guru. Upa means that approaching a Sat Guru who is well established. Swamiji, how will I find who is a Sat Guru? Who is realized and who is not realized? How will I know? So Gurudev used to give a beautiful example. He used to say that you don't go for guru hunting, guru shopping. You cultivate this demand, what we spoke earlier, awareness of bondage and the pain of bondage I realize, and I have intense desire to come out of this bondage. My weakness, my limitation, my finitude should pain me, that I want to come out of it, and it should be intense. That is called mumukshutvam. Otherwise, now and then we do some relief methods, and then we are okay with that. Or some pleasure comes on our way, then we are okay. We forget our pain. Or we drink something and become unconscious. All escape mechanisms. Intensity comes when I be aware of the pain that bondage is causing, my weakness. It may be anything. It may be my anger issue. It may be lust. It may be wandering of the mind. It may be selfishness. It may be insecurity. It may be constant self-criticism. Any of these. Do I really feel I want to come out of this? I feel the limitation of it. Then only I will strive intensely. So Gurudev used to say that that person who feels this and creates the demand that I want to be free from this state of finitude, that person is like a flower which keeps on blooming. The flower blooms, opens up and blooms, the bee will come on its own. If I cultivate the demand, the right teacher will come into my life. There is no doubt in that. And also if I study the scripture, I will also understand that who is such a person. The scripture gives the qualities of such a person so that we don't get exploited. We don't get, carried away by just some miracles and some kinds of magic that somebody is doing. What are the qualities? They remain established in the self. So they operate from the idea, I am not the body, I am consciousness. They operate out of detachment. They have inner sense of complete equanimity. Such qualities are given. Sita Prajna Lakshan in the Gita is there, Bhakta Lakshan is there, Sannyasi Lakshan is there, Gunatita Lakshan is there. So many places in the Gita we find. Like that in other scriptures also. When we go through those things, like the poem Daffodils, William Wordsworth's poem Daffodils, in that is the description of a person who has experienced a superconscious state. So when that poem was being, taught to Narendra, Narendra is Vivekananda's earlier name. Now Narendra had the desire that who is this person? I want to see such a person. And that professor guided him, saying, you go to Dakshineshwar, and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is that person you will meet who is living this state. So like that, there are descriptions in different literatures available of who is a man of realization. So we should study that also, so that we are very clear that when we spend time with them, are they operating out of ego and self-projection, or are they operating out of the awareness that I am the self? There may be some people who operate out of ego and they want to make more disciples and gain more popularity, gain more money, etc. So we become cautious. They are to project themselves. Then there are seekers who are genuinely walking the path. So we will know that okay, just like I am a seeker, here is also a seeker. Somebody here is here is somebody who is more advanced, maybe more knowledgeable or more, experienced. But when we connect to a realized person, the entire experience is different. One will know, if one has been a sincere seeker, one will know intuitively, here is a person who is realized. Because the scripture, what the scripture says, one will see in that person's life, manifesting, effortlessly manifesting. That person is a Satguru, who lives and operates from the self. That's why Brahma Nishtha it is called. Nishtha means a firm abidance. And it is Bhagwan's grace which will bring that student and that teacher together. Either the student is going and searching and is aware, so one will find such a master, or that master will walk into one's life if one is just preparing oneself and becoming an Adhikari. So Upa means going near such a teacher, meaning approaching such a teacher. Upa. With Ni means with firm determination, Nitaram. With firm determination to know the self, one goes to the teacher. That whatever effort it requires, I will put to know the self. I will not be slack in my efforts. I will not compromise in the sadhanas. And whatever hardships, if one has to go through, I will go through. Whatever, the wrong notions I have to drop, I will drop. Externally, if I have to train my body to, train myself to rise above body consciousness, I will go through those disciplines. Internally, I will learn to reflect, and I will drop the wrong notions in the light of new knowledge. I will not be rigid in those, earlier belief systems that I had. So that willingness to do what it takes to know the self, that is called Ni. To sit with firm determination at the feet of such a teacher. And Shad means to gain that knowledge of the self, which will loosen our bondage, which will destroy our ignorance, and which will speed up our journey to self-discovery. These are three meanings Shankaracharya gives of the word Shad. Upanishad. So Sad Dhatu, it will come from, and it means that. Avasadana means to loosen the bondage. Meaning, with the knowledge that I am getting, the wrong notions I have that I am this body, the world is real, happiness is in the world outside, all those false notions, first they get loosened up. Then Visharanad, Himsanad, the ego is destroyed, ignorance is destroyed through steady contemplation. And then Gamayati, it will speed up, Gati, it will speed up the evolution of the person from human to divine. One will experience, oh, I am that pure consciousness. So in one way we can say that Avasadhan will indicate listening to the teacher, Shravanam. Visharana will indicate destruction of the bondage through reflection, and Gati is speed up through, Visharana is Nididhyasan, and Gati is speed up through reflection. I can speed up. I can let go of the wrong notions. I can do the sadhana, logically understand why I am the self, why I am not this body, mind, intellect, get the right conviction. That conviction will speed up our evolution, and then through steady contemplation, Nididhyasan, one will destroy bondage. So Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan is what one does at the feet of the teacher. That knowledge which arises when I sit at the feet of the teacher with utter humility, ready to accept, and not that I cannot question. I can question the teacher as much as I want till I don't understand. Our culture doesn't say don't ask questions. Ask. Culture doesn't say blindly believe. It actually encourages thinking, questioning, and one can keep asking questions till one doesn't get clarity. So that knowledge which one gets with this attitude, when one sits with firm determination, with humility, with a questioning mind, with the attitude to reflect at the feet of a teacher, the knowledge that arises through listening, reflection, and contemplation, that intuitive knowledge is called Upanishad. So in the word Amritabindu Upanishad, Upanishad means this. There are many Upanishads. Upanishads are generally found in the end portion of the Veda. That's why they are called Vedanta. Vedanta and Upanishad mean the same thing. And generally accepted Upanishads, many, because a lot of literature we have lost. Actually, thousands of Upanishads are there. A lot of literature we have lost. And even in that which is there, there are many Upanishads, around 1,000 plus Upanishads already are there. But of them, 108 are considered most authentic. In that, 11 Upanishads are considered as major Upanishads, on which the three great Acharyas have written the commentary. Shankaracharya ji, Ramanujacharya ji, Madhvacharya ji. So Isha, Kena, Katha, Aitareya, Taitreya, Mundaka, Mandukya, Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya, Prashna, Shvetashvatara. 11 Upanishads. These are called major Upanishads. Then there are minor Upanishads. There are many minor Upanishads. Kaivalya Upanishad is one, Surya Upanishad is one, like that here. Amritabindu is one. So this Kaivalya Upanishad, Amritabindu Upanishad, they are found in Atharva Veda. And even in those minor Upanishads, there are 5 Upanishads which are the Bindu Upanishads. So those 5 Upanishads, they are in the Atharva Veda, they are called Bindu Upanishads. Nada Bindu Upanishad, Brahma Bindu Upanishad, Tejo Bindu Upanishad, Dhyana Bindu Upanishad, and Amrita Bindu Upanishad. 5 Upanishads. As I said earlier, it is not that the content of this Upanishad is any lesser than the major Upanishads. Content is the same. As I said earlier, this Upanishad term means intuitive knowledge of the self that arises. So the Amritabindu Upanishad also will help us to realize the same self, and that intuitive knowledge will arise. If our mind is prepared and ready, and we do the sadhanas indicated by the scriptures, that intuitive knowledge will arise. So in content, it is not any lesser. Now, what is Amrita? So Bindu means drop. Amrit means nectar. So one meaning of Amrit is, that which the Devatas, they drink and they live for a long period of time. But even that long period of time, it appears only as immortality, but actually it is called relative immortality, because as long as their punya is there, they will live. Their punya is over, they will again fall. Again, they are caught in the cycle of birth and death. But that state of Amrita, why does one want? Because one has the same demand. I don't want sorrow. So in heaven, we don't have this type of gross body. This gross body is predominantly made up of earth, and smell is the predominant quality of earth, and that's why our body smells. This human body smells like anything. That's why we have this entire deodorants and perfumes and whatnot. Full industry is there because this smells. That's why devatas, even if you invoke them, even Bhagwan, if you invoke Bhagwan, can't handle this smell of this body. It is quickly tell, what do you want? Tathastu, and he disappears. Bye bye. Our body is made up of this, and so this body has a lot of limitations and pain. And the greatest fear that human being has is the fear of death. I don't want to die. This body, I am this body, and this body is going to die. I don't want to die. That is not there in heaven. What is not there in heaven? There is no disease in heaven. So there is no hospital in heaven. Doctors have no job there. There is no heaven. There is no disease in heaven. There is no old age in heaven. You are ever young. So this cosmetics which make you look young and the Botox injections and this and that, nothing is required. You are naturally ever young there. And there is no death there, meaning physical death of the body. You suddenly come into existence because of your punya, and then suddenly you pop out of existence, gone, disappeared. And the body one gets there is predominantly made up of fire. That's why that word is Deva. Deva means that which shines, which illumines. So Deva Sharir is made up of predominantly of fire. Now, anyway, the point to understand is, why does one want immortality? Because one doesn't want sorrow and suffering in this world. One doesn't want old age, sickness, disease, death. One doesn't want at physical level. Same way one doesn't want, the emotional challenges, fear, insecurity, pain, misery, suffering. One doesn't want. So one feels that if I do certain karmas, I will get punya. With that punya, I will go to heaven. I will enjoy this a better life. But even that, don't we see so many stories where Indra gets insecure and he starts putting obstacles in the meditation of sadhus who are trying to meditate, all that just to show that even if you become Indra, even if you go to heaven, you will not become immortal, really speaking. You will only get a long life, but compared to infinity, that is very small. So human demand is for Amrita. Here also we don't want sorrow. Hereafter also we don't want sorrow. But neither here nor in hereafter can we attain the true immortality through any of the means of action that we apply. Then how to get immortality? Only by knowing the self. So really speaking, Amrita means that state of immortality, which is to realize that I am the unborn self, unchanging self, and imperishable self. Whoever realizes this, that person attains immortality, that person goes beyond the cycle of birth and death, that person experiences absolute fulfillment. And that state, Vedanta tells us, can be experienced right here and now in this human life. Think about that. What is the human possibility? Think about that. Don't go by all this lot of popular people who want to just be popular. So they will say that who has seen life after death? There's nothing called life after death. Everything is here and now only. Please, there is life after death, because life is a continuity. And as long as my desires are there, obviously there will be next body. How long will I keep going round and round in this body? New bodies. Vedanta is very clear. Even in all these schools of philosophy of our culture, it is only Vedanta which believes in Jivan Mukti, that you can be liberated while living here and now. Others don't believe in Jivan Mukti. So while living here and now, I can realize I am that infinite pure consciousness, experience that fulfillment, gaining which nothing more remains to be gained. That is called the state of Amrit. It is not some drink to be drank. Some people think, oh, Amrit means that Somras. And people think somras means wine, alcohol. No, no. Somras is made from soma plant, and that som plant today is extinct. It is not available today. So if somebody tells you this is somras, 100% that person is cheating you. Don't fall for it. There is no somras available today here in Kali Yuga, especially now. No, that's old plant somalata only has got extinct. Where will you find somras? So Amrit is not that somras. Amrit is not doing some ritual and going to heaven and living immortal life there. Amrit is knowing the self that I was, I am, I will ever be immortal. Immortality cannot be created. It is our true nature even now. Because if immortality is created, it will get destroyed. So Amrit Bindu Upanishad means this. So the Upanishad which helps me to realize my own indestructible nature of the self is the Amrit Bindu Upanishad. And that is the introduction for today. And the beautiful aspect of the title is that it is just one bindu. One drop of nectar is enough. Meaning, even a little bit of this experience of the self, the glimpse of the self one has, one will, the ignorance gets destroyed, one realizes immortal absolute consciousness. So more of this we will take up in our upcoming classes. For today I will stop here. Yes, Manoharji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Swamiji. Are there any questions? Would anybody like to seek any clarification from Swamiji?
The questions can be, if anybody has questions, you will raise your hand. We will finish the arati and then take up the questions. So you can go ahead with the announcements and the arati, and then we'll take up questions. You can raise that hand symbol which you have, and I will unmute you. You can ask the question.
I would like to announce again the Sampurna Yajman for the entire Jnana Yajna, Sri Chitur Manohar and Srimati Radhakini. The Sampurna Upayajmans for the Yajna are Srimati Chitra Vora, Srimati Kalpana Morparia, Sri Kishore Mallapur, Srimati Kumud Jnanendra Misra, and Srimati Preeti Saxena. The Dainik Yajman for today's discourse is Srimati Ela Kadakya. The Yajman for today's Arati is Srimati Amrapali Patil. May the grace and blessings of Lord Jagadishwara, Pujya Gurudev, Pujya Guruji, and the Guru Parampara descend upon them and flow upon them and their families. Hari Om.
Shri Chinmaya
No, we can't see. We can't see the arati. It's the same problem that is there, which was there in the beginning.
Please, Swamiji, say again.
We are not able to see the arati. What you were doing in the beginning, the same problem is still there. Let Akash share the video file. You can stop the sharing because we are seeing your Explorer. Akash, you can share, please.
Akash, can you share?
Okay, 1 minute. share the audio, please. Akash.
आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरति सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाए शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए आप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता गुहाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्ध माणिकी तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदयानंद स्रोत की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की
Okay, any questions, anyone? Okay, Manoharji, go ahead and complete the session. Any?
Hari Om Swamiji. Thank you very much. We will meet again next Friday at the same time. Please do remember to log in a little early because then you can see the summary of this week's teachings. And hopefully by then our PowerPoint, our video displays will improve and it will be a continuous process and we can get into the mood of the Upanishad properly. Hari Om. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you very much.
Hari Om.
Thank you all.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So these talks are also being live streamed, as you can see on the screen, on the Chinmaya Shivam YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to revisit, you can always revisit. It will be there on the Chinmaya Shivam as well as Chinmaya Mission Mumbai YouTube channel. You can subscribe it and you can also add your comments, like it. It will help to reach more people. Thank you.
Hari Om, Swamiji.